Welcome to smulcast, where we help you live a healthier, fuller life. Hello everyone, my name is Lesthego Zulu. I am an entrepreneur, a mom, and a businesswoman. Today we are joined by Dr. Angelic Nespola, who introduces herself in general on social media as making psych knowledge accessible, and we are all about accessibility, so we will be talking about that today. Dr. Nespola, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself, what your business does, and also how you make psychology accessible?
Absolutely. So I am a counseling psychologist. I'm registered with the HPCSA. I am based in Stellenbosch in a practice. I have 3 other psychologists who work alongside me. And in my life, I'm a mom and I'm a wife.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So today we will literally be talking about psychology in parenting. How much of your work requires, psychology work and psychology in different phases of people's lives?
Absolutely, that's a good question. When I sit with a person, I always try and understand them through thinking about their phases of life, the different developmental phases of life, to make sense of the experiences past and present.
And what are your typical clients that walk through your door? Is it people that have gone through trauma in life? I think for me it's more understanding what type of person walks through the doors of a psychologist.
There is no one person, which is what I love about my job. Every person is different, and I think that's so important to highlight that. Some people are there for mental health conditions, depression, anxiety, trauma. Some people come because they want to understand themselves. They want to gain insight into themselves. They want to cope better. So there is no one size. It's all sorts, which is what I love about my job.
Okay, so for me, what I'm more interested in, as a mom myself, how does a parent decide, I need to take my child to a psychologist?
Yeah. What are the signs to look out for?
What are the signs to look out for?
Yeah, and I think to first start off by saying the signs won't all be the same for every person, because we're all different and all children are so different. But some things I'd like parents to maybe keep in mind. If you're seeing this, it might be an indication to look for some support from a psychologist. The first thing is mood fluctuations. So if you've noticed a change in your child's mood that has persisted for a while, that is something to think about. Look for appetite changes. Could be increase in appetite, decrease that persists. Sleep changes. Isolating and withdrawing from their friend group. And another thing that I like to highlight is also not participating in activities that they used to enjoy. That is something that should signal to a parent, to think about what is going on there. Physical complaints is another thing that parents should tune into. Complaining about tummy aches frequently, headaches frequently. Sometimes a child expresses their emotions through physical somatic complaints. So that is something just to keep in the back of your mind as a parent.
I think, obviously I've got a 9-year-old girl, and I don't often think, let me take my daughter to a psychologist because suddenly she's got a tummy ache. I mean, I want to fix that tummy ache right now. I'm very quick to go into the medicine cabinet rather.
Absolutely.
So what would push me as a parent to think of, because personally I've never thought of the psychology angle or even taking her to a psychologist. I'm about, let's fix the problem right now.
Let's get the medication. So I think noticing a pattern. So it
needs to be repetitive.
Repetitive. So please don't take your child to a psychologist at the first tummy ache. But noticing that emotions might be presenting in the body and there's a pattern. So when there's a stressful event coming up at school, maybe she's got an oral, and every time she can't go to school because her stomach is sore, her head is sore, might tell you that there's some anxiety or stress that the child needs to process. So look for patterns, look for changes in behavior that are long lasting. And I think a parent's gut feel should always be trusted. To tap into that at the end of the day is important.
One of the things that we deal with as parents is bullying on the playground. and it's one of those things that is quite repetitive. You know, my daughter's in grade 3 this year, and we've been dealing with bullying since grade 1. Is this something that I could take my child to a psychologist for?
Absolutely. And I think that's important for us to highlight and talk about, that psychology is a supportive space for children to access, whether they are being bullied or whether their friends are being bullied and they're witnessing that. It's a threat to one's sense of safety, which, if you think about someone's safety being shaken, it's a traumatic experience to go through.
Yeah.
And talking through those emotions with a psychologist and finding coping mechanisms to work through those emotions is absolutely crucial in processing that, so that it doesn't come up in later years as a trauma.
Yeah, but how do like the childhood experiences shape a child's psychological development, and you know, what's a parent's role in that?
So childhood is a very vulnerable period in our lifespan.
Yeah.
It is the time in our lives that does influence a lot of things later on in our adult years, be it positive or negative. There are resilient aspects that also, you know, are implemented in our childhood years. If we think about the theory, one of the theorists I like to talk about is Winnicott, Donald Winnicott. He was a pediatrician and psychoanalyst. He talks about the holding environment, and I just love that word. Holding. And that's what caregivers need to strive for, is to create a holding environment. Of course, physically we do hold our children, but he's talking about emotionally. He's talking about creating that safety where your child feels safe with you, where your child feels like you're empathizing with them, mirroring their emotions.
Yeah.
That's what creates a secure sense of self, which gives one the confidence to explore things in life, to build that resilience in life and how we relate to other people in healthy ways. So I love that theory of holding.
But how does that go, or how does that work with discipline? Because sometimes when you focus on holding or nurturing, or you know what I mean, then you're almost carrying your children like an egg, if I may put it that way. But at the same time, you need to instill good behavior.
Yes.
And that holding might just, I don't know, like it might just create this very fragile platform for the child. And then, you know, discipline kind of might go out the way, out the window, I mean.
How do we strike that, that balance? Yeah, so when we talk about holding, we're not saying that we need to wrap the child in cotton wool. We're just saying the child needs to feel understood. They need to feel emotionally safe. We need to help them understand their emotions, mirror their emotions back to them so that they develop a good EQ. Discipline and structure can be part of the holding environment. So discipline, I think, important to, just for context, we're not talking about punitive, harsh discipline. We're talking about teaching the child self-control. We're talking about teaching them aspects that are going to set them up for life. So consequences are important. And implementing those consequences directly after the bad behavior, but making that consequence, we talk about natural logical consequences. So if the rule is that you need to ride your bike with a helmet, and little one goes and rides without the helmet, because they push boundaries, they do, it's part of their development, but the consequence is you now can't ride your bike for X amount of time, right? So we can still have the holding and the empathy, but have the discipline, which is really important to instill in our children. So that balance it's a good question, is important to think about and adjust as the child's needs change.
So we've spoken about, you know, signs where you need to take your child for therapy. But, you know, what are the signs that a parent needs to go for therapy in order to improve their parenting skills?
Yeah, that's a good question, because parenting can bring up a lot of one's insecurities, a lot of your experiences as a child. Past traumas. Some people want to align with the way their parents parented. Other people want to do the opposite and just not do that. And sometimes you find yourself stepping into how your parents parented you and you don't want to. So I think whenever you find yourself reacting in a way emotionally that you think is not conducive to this holding environment, And I think it's not something to feel shameful about, because we are humans. We do have these emotions that come up. And if you are feeling certain strong emotions, to access the therapeutic space, to explore, to talk about it.
Yeah.
I think emotions is the first signal to seek a therapeutic space.
Okay. And going back to children, how, or rather, what are the signs that, a child may be struggling with their mental health? And, as I mentioned earlier, it's not easy for, I don't even want to generalize and say us African parents take our children to therapy, but what are the signs? What are the early signs that you can pick up as a parent that a child is struggling with their mental health?
So the first thing is your child is not themselves anymore for a set amount of time. So not just for the day, but you've noticed a pattern that they're not themselves anymore. Emotionally, their emotions seem to fluctuate, and there's emotional outbursts. They're responding differently to how they do. Isolating and withdrawing from you, from the family, from friends for a set amount of time is a big one to look out for. And those physical complaints that I spoke about earlier, if it becomes a pattern, to think about the other aspects of their life. Yeah,
but that may be difficult, especially when they're going through, preteen or
absolutely
around,
yes,
around the 12, 13 age group. I mean, I'm not there yet, but
yes,
you expect changes. You expect them to become
yes,
moody. You expect them to stop playing with certain friends.
Yes.
I think for me, it's I'm just basically saying it's a bit tricky to just immediately jump and say, let me take my child to a psychologist. Otherwise, psychologists will be seeing a whole lot of teenagers out there.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I agree with you on that some change is expected, but when it is affecting the child's areas of functioning. So if their school life is being affected, if their social life is being affected, that because if you think about a teen, that is a critical time for your emotional and your social development. But if they've completely isolated from everybody, we need to worry about that development. So there are some fluctuations that teens do go through, but the moment it starts affecting their areas of life, their areas of functioning, and their development, to seek space. And remember that therapy doesn't have to be a lifelong commitment. Some people come into therapy for a few sessions just to talk through certain life experience, to develop certain coping mechanisms, and then they go on and they can access the space later on in life. Same for a child. Might just be that they're going through something at the moment, something they're integrating into their identity possibly, that they need to discuss with, a psychologist, somebody on the outside, somebody who is objective.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that children need to develop is resilience. What are some effective strategies that parents can help their children to build more resilience?
Yeah. The one thing that I think we need to think about is problem solving. So when a child is struggling with something, our instinct as a parent is to intervene, to make it better.
We want to fix.
We want to fix.
We are fixers.
Yes, we are fixers. And that is good. But to remember to give them a little bit of space to develop that independence. But always thinking about their needs and matching your intervention with their needs. So giving a little bit of independence, but being there to support. So not always jumping to problem solving, thinking, what do they need right now in this moment? They're struggling to tie their shoelaces. What do they need right now from me? And maybe on a day, they do need you to tie their shoelace. Maybe that's what they need from mum. But the next day, they need you to give them a little bit of space. To figure it out. Practical example, simple example, but I think we can apply that to so many things. The other thing which I think fosters resilience is not always focusing on the outcome. As a society, we always focus on the outcome. But what about the process? So yes, my child ran a race and they won. Fantastic. Maybe they didn't. What about that process in leading up to the race? They showed up, they trained, they stretched, they went even though they were anxious. We need to acknowledge that process. That fosters resilience too. Saying, I see the effort you put in there, and I'm proud of that. The gold medal, fantastic. But the process, because sometimes they're not going to win the gold medal, but they still showed up, they still put in the work. So as a society, we really focus on the outcome. We all do at some point. So reminding ourselves to look at what they invested in the process and to affirm that, because that builds confidence.
Yeah.
That gives them the security to try new things later on in life.
No, I think what you just touched on there, especially in the sporting environment. I mean, I'm a sporting mom. I'm sporty myself, and my daughter is as well. And I think we tend to put so much pressure on them to perform. And then when they don't perform, then they crumble under that pressure.
Yeah.
So I think it's important for parents themselves to just be cognizant of their behavior towards their children, you know, to help foster those positive habits and positive thoughts.
Absolutely. And not to connect identity to achievement, because we often see that high achievers, somewhere along the line, your identity does become enmeshed with achieving. And at some point you are faced with, who am I outside of these achievements? And to foster that from a young age, to build that foundation in your child.
Can we discuss the importance of open communication within families to promote mental health?
So open communication in families has been shown scientifically to build cohesion in a family. So what it does is it creates a feeling of safety, a feeling of being understood. Obviously, we always have different personalities that come into play, but if a child feels safe within a space, that is their base, they are more likely to express their emotions. They are more likely to feel less shameful about their emotions and not to bottle their emotions up, which for their emotional intelligence will really stand them in good stead.
What kind of things would make a child not feel safe? And I'm asking this, applying myself in this situation where there'll be times when, you know, my daughter's had a bad day at school. I ask her, how was your day at school? And she says, thumbs down. And I say, okay, can you tell me more about it? And she says, can we speak about it later? Is that a sign that she's not feeling safe?
Not necessarily. And I think this is such a good question, because I think lots of parents would be sitting with that. Am I not creating a safe environment for her to share? What am I doing wrong? Sometimes a child just needs time to process and make sense of their experience before they can put words to it.
But how do we as parents then create a safe space or create an environment for them to feel open enough to, you know,
when they're ready to share?
I'd love for my daughter I'd love to be the first person that she comes to when she's got a
you'd
problem.
love for you to ask a question and she'll be like, and
exactly. I mean, that's the perfect world,
that is
right?
The perfect
Which doesn't
world.
exist.
Yes, I think the first thing is acknowledging that she's not herself today, which you are doing when you're asking that question, right? But then saying, you don't want to talk about it right now, because you're reflecting that emotion. You're mirroring it back. She maybe doesn't know what she's feeling, but you're helping her understand why she's shutting down in that moment. That's the mirroring. It's part of the holding. Helping her understand her experience. When you want to chat to me, I am here. When you're ready. And that's hard for a mom, because you want to chat right now.
Right now. I want to fix it right now. I see you're sad and I want to see that smile again.
Absolutely. And I need to know why, because I want to help. It's a difficult line to walk, because I'm not saying just ignore it, but I'm saying acknowledge, open the door so that she's not feeling pressured. Because I think sometimes parents are like, how was your day? What did you do? Who did you play with? Ask open-ended questions that might lead to that. What did you enjoy in your day today? What was hard in your day today?
I try that.
Which is wonderful. Does it work, or does she?
Sometimes. I still get one-word answers here and there.
depending on the day. But I think just leaving that door open, that I am here. I'm not going to pressure you to talk, because I think whenever a person, think about yourself, when you're feeling pressured to talk, you do shut down. Your walls kind of come up. So it's not about not feeling safe. It's just right now I'm working through it. And I know the space is there to access. Mom is there when I'm feeling ready.
But then when they don't come back to mom later, because now I'm saying, I understand you don't want to speak about it now, but I'm here when you're ready. And you'll be ready for a long time and they don't come.
So you're sitting there waiting, going, great. So I think it then becomes a balance of, has she worked through it, or does she need me to revisit it? And you can always just go to the process and say, what makes it hard for you to talk about this? Because then she doesn't have to speak about it. What makes it hard? Work through that. Acknowledge that feeling. always try and go to the feeling. What do you think your child is feeling? That's what we mean with mirroring.
Okay.
And we might not hit the nail on the head with the emotion, but you might go in the region of the emotion that they're feeling. Are you feeling afraid? Are you feeling shame? Trying to help them understand. So trying to go to the emotion of what is happening in that moment can sometimes lead them to feel safe. Other times they do just need time, and you can revisit it as a parent if you think they're still struggling with it.
Okay, let's talk about other triggers. Social media and the effects.
It's a big one.
On children's psychology. What are your thoughts around social media, and how can we as parents navigate? Because, I mean, we live in a digital world.
Yes,
right?
we cannot avoid.
We can't avoid it.
Yes. How do we manage it?
But it's got so many triggers, and how do we work around it?
Absolutely. So social media is ever present. I don't think we'd get away from isolating our children from it. We are aware of the dangers, I think, as parents, as psychologists. So some strategies that I have found helpful in sharing with parents. The first one is having timelines in your home, time that is social media or screen-free time. So it could be at dinner time, we don't have our phones. We put them aside. But I need to model that as parent too. I can't say you can't have your phone, but my phone is there and I keep checking it. So saying before bedtime, that is screen-free time. So having designated time, because it's super important that they have that face-to-face contact with you. And a screen is always a divide. If I had my phone here, it would be a divide between you and I in this moment. So trying to have some structure around, okay, now you can be on your phone. But at this time, it's screen-free time. Encouraging other interests is really important. You spoke about the sport of your daughter, having those, nurturing those interests, because we all go to our phone or our social media when we have nothing to do. Same for children. So nurturing those other interests is super important.
But at the same time, we live in a different world. We live in a different time. So it's not just social media. It's the various apps that they use.
Yes, absolutely.
The educational apps. The Minecrafts, sorry to name one, but there's so many of these apps, and sometimes she'll come to me and say, but mom, I'm not watching YouTube and I'm not watching this. I'm actually on the app from school. But then we're on the app from school for half the day on a Saturday. And that can't be healthy.
That balance. And I think in navigating these apps that are in their lives, I think we need to teach our children the way to safely navigate the digital landscape, we could put it that way. Explaining to them safety mechanisms, privacy settings, digital footprint, sharing personal information, age appropriate, of course. But the same way, if you give your child a car, you're not just going to put them in the car and
of course not.
arrivederci, right? You're going to set them up for safe driving. The same way when your children have access to social media, to digital platforms, to educate them around the safe navigation of that, and educate them around the balance of it. What is balance? How long do you need to be spending on the school app, for example?
True. Because then you get, no, mom, it's not fair,
Yes.
I'm learning here.
Yes, this is school. Teacher said.
Exactly, because now we're at that age where we negotiate everything.
Yes, we push boundaries.
So what resources or support networks are out there for parents to utilize, in helping their children with mental health?
So there is an organization called FAMSA in South Africa, Family South Africa. They offer parenting courses at a really reasonable price. That is something that parents can access. Seeing a psychologist for parental counseling, if that's specifically your need, or just for a space for you to work through what you need to process in your own personal life, because it affects your role as a parent. That's another thing that one can access. And then there are lots of things online on social media. I would encourage people to check the credentials of people who are sharing information.
Important.
It's very loud out there, lots of people giving advice. There's a lot of noise, a lot of chatter, a lot of people giving advice, but they don't have the credentials to back it up. So to check that and follow accounts that do share scientific empirical studies or tips for parents or mental health in general.
And I think just to wrap it up, what I've learned as a mom, because I'm speaking to you today as a mom, is that, you know, we are all busy. We're busy with work. We're busy with so much in our lives. But, you know, when we're parenting these little people, we need to be, we need to take a moment to focus on our children and notice the changes. So it's because it's the small changes, you know, the disconnect from friends, the grades that are going downhill, you know, the mood changes. You know, it's the small things that we need to focus on, that will prompt us to get psychological assistance.
Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, we can't solve it on our own. Yes, we are parents and we've been parented as well. But,
and those changes are so gradual. And one of the biggest misconceptions I've noticed is people thinking that children cannot experience mental health difficulties. That is the furthest thing from the truth. They are little human beings with their own experiences. And they can experience depression. They do experience depression, anxiety, PTSD, ADHD. And I think that's hard for us as adults to accept that children can have those struggles. As parents, we want to believe that they're, you know, exempt from that. But that is one of the things that we need to be aware of, that they can struggle. We need to look out for it.
We need to treat them as equals.
We need to treat them as equals. And
to a certain degree,
as little humans, as you said. And if they do have mental health struggles, it's not to say it's because of bad parenting. This is so important, because I think a lot of parents think they're going to be blamed when they bring their child in to see a psychologist or a psychiatrist, whoever they're going to see. They think they're going to put it down to bad parenting. Don't get me wrong. Trauma, neglect, all of those things, we know it will, you know, it can be a trigger for mental health. But there are many other causes for mental health difficulties, not necessarily bad parenting. We as professionals know that. So please don't let that be something that will hold you back, because I hear this in conversation. It is the narrative out there. Oh, they're struggling with that. Must be, you know. But that is furthest from the case, and psychologists and psychiatrists will know that there are many factors outside of that could impact mental health.
Wow, I've learned so much from you, Dr. Nespola. Thank you so much. How do people get hold of you? You know, if people want more information and would like to come and consult with you.
Yeah, so you can visit my website, ange.nespola.co.za, or on social media, dr.ange, ange.nespola, Nespola.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for tuning into Smulcast. For more information on Dr. Nespola and to watch more episodes, tune into www.smulcast.com. Thank you very much.